This is Top Accolade Global News Update. I am President Mohamed. The French Foreign Ministry has said plans to evacuate French citizens are underway in the West African state of Niger, this after President Mohamed Bazoum was overthrown by members of his presidential guard. In quotes, considering the situation in Niamey, the violence against our embassy the day before yesterday, and the fact that the airspace is short and our citizens cannot leave by their own means, France is preparing the evacuation of its citizens and other European citizens who want to leave the country, the Foreign Ministry said in a statement. The evacuation will start today, it said. Last Wednesday's overthrow of President Bazoum, the 7th military takeover in less than 3 years in West and Central Africa, has sent shockwaves across the region, where the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS, has imposed sanctions on Niger and threatened the possible use of force. The governments of Burkina Faso and Mali have said any external military aggression in Niger would be considered an act of war against them. On Sunday, supporters of the coup burned French flags and attacked the French embassy in Niger's capital, Niamey, prompting police to fire volleys of tear gas in response. Afterward, French President Emmanuel Macron said any attacks on French interests in Niger would be met with a, in quote, swift and uncompromising response. Taliban leaders have met officials from the United States in Qatar for the first time since their return to power in Afghanistan 2 years ago. A spokesman for the Afghan Ministry of Foreign Affairs said on Monday that the two sides discussed confidence-building measures during the two-day talks, including the lifting of sanctions and travel bans, as well as the return of Afghan central bank assets held abroad. The delegations also discussed combating narcotics and human rights issues. Abdul Kahar Balki said, "No country has formally recognized the Taliban since its return to power. The group took over in August 2021 as Afghanistan's Western-backed government collapsed in the aftermath of the US chaotic withdrawal from the country after 20 years of conflict. Since their takeover, the Taliban has faced international condemnation, including from several Muslim-majority countries, over restrictions the group has imposed on women's education. Afghanistan is also grappling with a humanitarian crisis, with almost half of its population, 23 million people, receiving assistance from the World Food Programme (WFP) last year. Myanmar's ruling military pardoned on Tuesday jailed former leader Aung San Suu Kyi on 5 of the 19 offenses for which she was convicted, but she will remain under house arrest, state media and informed sources said. The pardons mean 6 years will be shaved off Suu Kyi's 33-year jail term, junta spokesperson Zaw Mei Tun told the 11 Media Group, adding that it was part of an amnesty under which more than 7,000 prisoners were freed across the strife-torn country. Myanmar has been in the throes of bloody turmoil since early 2021 when the military overthrew Suu Kyi's elected government and unleashed a crackdown on opponents of military rule that saw thousands jailed or killed. On Monday, the junta postponed an election promised by August this year and extended the state of emergency for another 6 months, which critics say would prolong the crisis. The 78-year-old Nobel laureate, who was detained during the coup, was last week moved from prison to house arrest in the capital, Naypyidaw. She denies all the charges for which she was convicted, ranging from incitement and election fraud to corruption, and has been appealing against them. A former childcare worker in Australia has been charged with sexually abusing 91 children in what has been described as one of the worst child sex abuse cases in the country's history. The 45-year-old man has been charged with 1,623 separate offenses, including 136 counts of rape, 110 counts of sexual intercourse with a child under 10, and 613 counts of producing child exploitation material. The Australian Federal Police (AFP) said on Tuesday the alleged crime were carried out at 12 different childcare centers in Sydney, Brisbane, and overseas between 2007 and 2022. Police said the man, who police said passed background checks required for his job, is alleged to have recorded himself abusing his victims, all of whom were prepubescent girls. Police said they believe that all its 7 Australian children recorded in the child exploitation material have been identified, and authorities are working with international partners to identify 4 children abused overseas. Investigators had been searching for the man since discovering a collection of child exploitation images and videos circulating on the dark web in 2014. British house prices fell by the most since 2009 in the 12 months to July, mortgage lender Nationwide said on Friday, as the drag from rising interest rates on the housing market intensified. Compared with July last year, the average house price was down 3.8% after a 3.5% annual fall in June. Nationwide said the reading was in line with the consensus from a Reuters poll of economists. House prices fell 0.2% month on month, Nationwide said. The survey chimed with other gauges of the housing market that point to weak activity caused by rising interest rates, which have pushed mortgage rates above 6% for home buyers and existing mortgagors looking to refinance. Nationwide chief economist Robert Gardner said a typical first-time buyer with a deposit of 20% would see mortgage payment at current rates account for 43% of their take-home pay, up from 32% a year ago. Meanwhile, the Bank of England looks on course to raise its bank rate to 5.25% from 5% on Thursday, according to economists polled by Reuters, which would mark the highest cost of borrowing since 2008. That is the size of top accurate global news updates. You can follow us on our social media platforms as displayed on your screen. Happy Tuesday!